Hi everyone. I'm really glad to have a special guest on my channel today. Michelle, can you introduce yourself, say a few things about you and your channel?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle. I have a channel called Heart of Michi. I'm an ENFP, and I like to talk about personality stuff.
Surprisingly.
Who'd have guessed?
Okay, today we thought about doing a video together discussing about the feeling function, and more specifically the differences that we can observe between FE and FI, because we see different shades of this function in ourselves, but also generally how these two functions can sometimes be confused for each other because of the way they interact with their thinking pair, TI or TE. So, Michelle, I'm going to ask you maybe to say a few things about FI and how it reflects and manifests in your personality.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting conversation because in that parent function or in the second slot, FI can often be overlooked and then have this habit of like kind of reacting when things get too far. So something that I've noticed is I really suppress it a lot of times when I get in this mode where I'm just like go 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 go, like I want to get all this stuff done. I get really excited. It'll spark with an idea that I'm really excited about, and my FI is like, yes, I love this idea, and then I'll go go go, and then the idea will start to morph because I then have like cut off connection to my FI while I'm going down this idea rabbit hole. And then in the end, it ends up being something completely different. And then FI comes out again and is like, wait a second, that's not what we talked about.
Okay.
And I, I think having FI in the second slot as well means that it is more critical than it is optimistic. So it normally comes out when it does not like something than when it does like something. So, for example, in a workplace setting, when I recognize that things aren't how I want them to be, or they're going against something that's a core value of mine, it gets to the point where I feel like I need to say something, I need to stop it, I need to act right now. Which I've had to learn how to balance that, especially in a workplace setting. It used to be really bad when I was in like high school. I had no holding back. If I didn't like what somebody was saying, I would just be like, yo, that's wrong. And here's all the reasons why you're wrong. um, but it also means that when I get an emotion about something or a reaction to something, if I don't do the work to figure out where that's stemming from, it'll continue to affect me in a day-to-day setting. So I have to make time, especially if I recognize that there's something negatively affecting me, I have to take the time to evaluate what that is, or it will continue to happen and it'll lash out because you can't suppress something like FI for too long until it comes out and speaks its mind.
Mhm. Yeah, I do relate to that to a certain extent because, as you said, the parent function has a more negative, pessimistic outlook on things rather than the parent and the child function. So, in a way, for both ENFPs and INFJ, FE and FI are the pair of functions that come up in the second slot and then in the second slot of the shadow, but in
Yes.
reversed order. So they tend to be more critical. And I would say that for me, this kind of connection also happens because in situations where I focus on my goals and I focus on my long-term vision, I will often get NI and TI along and just focus on being productive as well as you said, but at the same time focus on understanding and fine-tuning concepts and ideas as well as I possibly can.
Mm.
But when I do that for too long, I notice that I feel really, really horrible, completely disconnected from
Mm.
myself and from the people around me. So over years, I've learned to kind of switch something on and kind of allow FE to manifest itself and express itself. Sometimes in the form of arts, because I can just allow my feelings to flow. Sometimes simply through engaging with people, connecting with people, feeling this emotional strength and connection that comes from a really, really nice relationship. And that is very, very like nurturing and nourishing for me. But it's also the function that kind of comes up and criticizes me for not taking care of my relationships. Because if I focus too much on my work, which I often do, I feel really, really bad for not focusing on the people in my life. And then FI critic comes around and it guilt trips me even more. Do you experience something like this as well?
Mm. I'm trying to think about the way that the critic role plays in my life, and I think that I become incredibly judgmental of other people and how they're relating to each other, and I pay sometimes way too much attention to that. For example, at work, I recently started a new position, which means I'm working more closely with different people, and I've noticed that I'm paying a lot of attention to how they are relating to each other and whether or not I think that is good, and feeling the need to take action on it, whether it is to say something to like get them to stop having whatever relation it is, or feeling insecure that I'm not at that same level of relation, or all these different things. It's been actually kind of stressful because normally it wouldn't bother me so much, but I don't know, maybe it's like being in this new position, it's like kind of sparked it again. But I've noticed that that's something I do a lot. I often am kind of judgmental of other people and how their relationships are, and if their relationships are, you know, what I would consider to be like authentic or and it's funny because I haven't really done that much reflection on that, but as we're talking, I'm realizing how bad it is sometimes.
Yeah. I was about to ask, this like judgmental attitude, I assume it comes in the form of you not liking that someone is being too nice and not real about what they
Yeah.
really feel and what they really value.
Yes, that bothers me.
Okay, I thought so.
uh, I sometimes do it myself, and I really get hard on myself if I do that. Like if I'm, there are times when I'm nice for an ultimate purpose where I have to let go of my own feelings because ultimately this other thing is more important than what I feel. But when I see other people being insincere, especially around me, or if I feel like they're hiding a feeling they have about me, I feel the need to like dig until I find it. Like, what is it that you actually feel about me? I need to know, because how can I navigate this relationship if I don't know exactly how you feel about me?
Okay. And does it come out in a tendency to pressure the person into telling you?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah. And I'll try different techniques of trying to get them to tell me, but my main technique is being honest about how I feel so
Okay.
they can be honest with me about how they feel. Like, hey, I've noticed that this behavior is happening and this is how I feel about the behavior. Can you tell me where this behavior is coming from? I don't always do it that directly, but that's my ideal approach because I don't want any confusion or hidden feelings, and I want them to feel comfortable telling me how they feel, because if there's something about what I'm doing that they don't like, I can fix it, but I can't fix it if I don't know what it is. So
Yeah. Okay. I've noticed that people who value FI quite a lot, so basically all FPs, they have probably the best ability to make other people feel comfortable into expressing their true selves, because they kind of lead through their ability to be like that, and that kind of mirrors everything onto the other person. And then you will find that their friends, family, coworkers, and so on, they will naturally ease into that space. On the other hand, FE users, FJ types in particular, I find they also create harmony and they make people feel comfortable. But they might also create some sort of expectation that other people should be nice and other people should be, you know, respectful or kind. And sometimes that can make other people feel pressured as well.
Yes, I know exactly what you're saying. One of my dear friends at work is an ISFJ, and she does exactly what you're talking about. She creates these really warm, welcoming environments, and she's super kind to everyone, and she always shares, you know, positive things about other people.
Mm-hmm.
But it does create this atmosphere where you don't want to bring any negativity into it in
Mm-hmm.
any way, even if it's like for me, I know her and I'm very honest with her, but I know that I have to change my approach with her when I want to tell her something honest. I have to say, hey, these are just my feelings and I want to share them with you so that I can be fully honest with you. And I'm not trying to hurt your feelings by saying this. I'm just trying to be honest. It's in the environment that she makes, and I've noticed that other people don't feel necessarily as comfortable telling her when they disagree about something, um, because I don't think they ever say out loud that it's because of this environment that's created, but that is absolutely what it is with especially FE DOMs. It's very difficult to bring in a personal
Mm-hmm.
opinion. It has to be heavily prefaced that
Mm-hmm.
this has nothing to do with how I feel about you and 100% is objectively about this thing that we're talking about. Separate yourself completely, which is funny because people say that FI is bad at taking criticism, which sometimes is very true, but I think FE can also be really bad at
Yeah.
taking criticism as well.
Yeah.
Um, it's just in what aspects they're taking that criticism
Mm-hmm.
personally. So
Mm-hmm.
FI is taking it as a personal attack against their core of who they are, but FE is taking it as a personal attack of, you know, their, I don't know how to say it, like their ability to do a certain thing. I don't know. It's more like you're attacking their TI, like there's very
Mm-hmm.
sensitive
Mm-hmm.
TI.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because especially for INFJs and ISFJs, since TI is their child function, they will be very sensitive um, to them being perceived as stupid, for example, by other
Mm-hmm.
people, and this will make them feel extremely uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Because TI is kind of, you know, getting upset and grumpy that it's not doing a job that is good enough.
Oh,
Sometimes I think that our introverted function in a pair is the one controlling and directing the extroverted function as well. So even if maybe FE is stronger than TI in your stack, your ability to use it will still come from TI because
wow. Mm-hmm.
most of the processes are like born inside of you as introverted processes. And then they naturally come out in an extroverted fashion because you are yourself ultimately before you are any other thing that is related to the object, to the external world. So as you said very nicely, I think that an attack towards FE can immediately jump into TI, who gets upset about what this could mean for its intellectual integrity or its capacity to control and do something.
Mm. And that brings up such a good segue into something that's quasi-related, but extroverts, I think, need to take extra time to go into that introverted side and make sure that things are cleared up there. Or, you know, kind of like I said earlier, for myself, it'll kind of lash out. I think it lashes out whether it's TI or FI,
Mm-hmm.
just, you know, in their different ways, the different things that they care about, it'll lash out unless you have that supported there in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like the thing I'm most passionate about right now when it comes to cognitive functions is how the pairs work, because the way they connect to each other, of course, everyone knows that FE and TI work together, FI and TE work together, and so on. But I find that there is much, much more to this relationship than we give it credit for.
Mm-hmm.
And they really do not exist without the other one. So when trying to
Right.
understand FE, it's crucial to understand TI. when trying to understand FI, it's crucial to understand TE. And especially when they're closer to each other in the stack. So for ENFPs, INFJs, the feeling and thinking being closer to each other in the stack, I kind of portray this as, you know, two people standing back to back, and like nudging each other to do something, or whispering something into the other one's ears in a way.
And then your hero and inferior, they're just like on opposite sides of the room trying to like yell at each other, and the goal is to like bring everyone at least like close enough together that they can hear each other without yelling.
Exactly. The hero is trying to save the day by ordering everything in the mind, and the inferior is kind of trying to pair up with the hero, but it's struggling and it's clumsy and it's difficult for him to like, you know, navigate.
And it's probably constantly annoyed with the hero, like trying to take control of everything all the time. And it's like, dude, you're forgetting about all this stuff.
What about me? I'm also here.
Yeah, exactly. But I agree full-heartedly with you about the, you know, it's easy to know that they go together. Like, obviously, they're two sides of the coin. But how integrally they work together is something that's harder to understand. And in my own personal experience, it's something I've only really started to fully understand in the last maybe even like 6 months to a year, as I've gotten more and more in depth with it. How integrally linked they are. You cannot have one without the other. It's funny, I was actually working with an INFJ on a project, and it was our TI and TE which had the most issues with each other. Our FI-FE was almost always fine with each other because we were mostly aligned with our goals, and it was just the approach of how we were gonna go after these goals that really got us to struggle. And FE has a way of giving criticism, which is indirect, I've noticed. It's very indirect about the way, because you guys don't want to say that somebody's thinking is incorrect. You never want to say that somebody's thinking something wrong. So you always assume the best with the logic and thought process behind somebody. And so you're never approaching that particular aspect. But with somebody with TE, that is all we want you to criticize. We don't want you to like worry about our feelings. We've got those. You don't need to worry about beating around the bush. Just tell me what I'm thinking wrong, and tell me how I'm doing it, how you don't want me to do it, and I will fix it. And that was where the majority of our disconnect came from, is I'm asking her to be more direct, and I am struggling to be less direct in my feedback. Because I'm just like, hey, be honest with me, be direct with me. What do I need to fix about what I'm doing? And then when it came for me to give feedback to her, it'd be very difficult for me to avoid giving any feedback to the TI, because that is something so precious. So it would sometimes be to the point where I would avoid giving feedback in general, because I didn't want to say something in a way that came across how I didn't mean it, because I don't want to hurt anyone's feeling when I give feedback. But, you know, I heard someone say that FE is responsible for other people's feelings. It feels this like responsibility towards managing other people's,
like pressure. You're putting pressure on yourself to manage other people's feelings.
I think that TE feels the same sort of pressure, but with other people's logic and how they're viewing things. We want it to all be the same. And we feel responsible for that. We can deal with our own emotions. You can deal with your own emotions. You've got that. I trust you to do that. But let's make sure we're on the same page logically here.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. I haven't really thought about the TE pressure, and that actually clarifies a few things. I remember I also used to work with an ENFP before, and she also told me that she feels like she needs to be careful with the way she tells me something so that it doesn't hurt me. I find that the TE-TI clash can actually be the strongest clash, because FI and FE more naturally go together. And I think out of all of these NE, NI, SE, SI, blah, blah, blah pairs, they work the best with each other. They annoy each other the least because they both strive for harmony in a way or another.
Yeah.
So they will click easily. But with TE and TI, there can be a lot of like fights and willingness to like be intellectually superior. Maybe it can look differently. I mean, surely it can look differently depending on where they are in the stack. But when you get into that point of the two discussing or working against each other, big conflicts can occur, in my opinion.
Yes. I mentioned earlier when we were talking that I have a coworker who's an ESTP. I also have a coworker who's an ESTJ. And when the ESTJ first came in, he came in with some structural templates that he used. Everyone uses them. They're the same. However, he's very flexible with adapting the template to what we need, right? The ESTP comes in and he's like, we can't use this template. Nothing about this is going to work for us. Here's all the ways it's going to get messed up. We can't do this. And the TE guy's like, no, don't worry about that. I'll adapt my template to fit everything that you're talking about. And the TI guy's like, no, you're not getting it. It's the fact that the template itself won't work. And the ESTP actually got a little annoyed with me for suggesting bringing the two of them together. and I was just like, well, because I'm NE, so I'm like seeing the possibilities with this template and how it can make things easier for everyone. TE, like it's going to work for everyone. And the TI is just like, no, it's not. And there was also an INFJ in the room and she was agreeing with the ESTP. So it was just like a whole mess because TE is just trying to make something that is simple and easy to understand and everyone will be able to use it. And TI can quickly tell if it's going to work or not, if it's actually going to function the way that TE is hoping it will function.
But I think the thing you're explaining right now also has to do with the trickster role, because when FI comes around, it brings TE alongside it. And if TE is someone else's trickster function, it can activate something really strong in that person. I can relate very much to this. It makes me feel like I'm completely losing it. And I feel like I don't know what to do in this situation. I'm trying my best, but I'm losing it. When someone shows a lot of TE, like an overwhelming amount of TE on me. And that's where I might confuse things and get annoyed at the FI expression as well, because FI is somewhat hidden in the shadow of TE in a way or another. And I think this can happen in the opposite direction as well for ENFPs. If FE comes along with TI and then TI kind of bullies the trickster of an ENFP, similar kind of, emotions can come around.
Yeah, the trickster function is probably the most frustrating one because every time you think you're making progress with it, something comes up and challenges you and is like, you sure you're making progress with that? I don't know, let's test it.
Back to square one.
Yeah, it's such a sensitive cognitive function. It's so easily overwhelmed and so easily poked at by other people. And I don't know, every time I feel like I understand something, because it's my trickster function and my child function wants to make sure that what I believe or what I think makes sense for everybody, when I put across an argument and it's even remotely not perfectly understandable by everyone and people don't understand what I'm saying, it's so overwhelming that I want to like just not even try.
I understand very well. For me, it's like if someone is trying to tell me what to do and in what way to do it, and especially if they're being rather aggressive about it, or I perceive them to be aggressive because sometimes they're really not, it's my own interpretation, I feel so lost and I feel like I need to get away. I need to hide. I need to be submissive in a way. That this is my natural response. And it kind of makes me feel like everything is all over the place and I don't know what to do anymore. And I just want to please the authority figure, but at the same time, I want to rebel against them. And it's this extreme behaviors.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle it. And I can easily get triggered if someone uses a lot of tea on me. It makes me feel like, oh, I want to become like a baby and cry and hide. But then my mature side is like, you have to deal with it. This is a normal situation in day-to-day life. And as you said, I think I'm making progress and I'm getting better at accepting this and even using it myself, if we can even do that. But then something else happened. It challenges me again. And again, I go back to square one.
I wish it was easier, but then again, maybe that's the whole point of it, is
Yep.
that it isn't easy, because if we had nothing to work on, why would we even care about what we're doing?
Exactly.
We would just live and do, but that's not what we do, because we're into MBTI, so we need
Something to focus our attention on.
Exactly.
Yeah, and one more point I would like to add before we end the video is that in a way or another, to me, the ability to use the F or T function that is not in our conscious stack is to balance our two F and T functions out.
Yeah.
So in order for me to get a better grasp of FI or TE, I need to balance FE and TI as much as possible. And I find that when that happens, somehow I do the job of FI or TE, and the other way around as well.
I actually agree with that so very much. Sometimes, I want to simplify it and say that I'm using this function that maybe I'm not, but so I have different minds about this, and this is still something that cognitively I'm trying to resolve the dissonance about, because I do have this feeling like we're able to balance ourselves and use all of the functions. However, perhaps it really is that we're creating a manifestation of something that resembles the actual cognitive functions, but we're still using our base cognitive functions no matter what, and we can't really change that. So even engaging, completely off topic, to SE for me, that is still a manifestation of my NESI.
I think so.
But it's not really that. And maybe that's why it's so hard sometimes to understand people who have the opposite stacking of you. So for example, we're from opposite quadras, so we have none of the same stacks, but for some reason we're also each other's like subconscious. So it's like, I want to be able to do those things that are my subconscious. And no matter what I do, I'm still doing what's in my conscious side. And it's tough.
I actually have a metaphor for this particular thing. I've been thinking about it for a while. It came up in one of these courses that I took. It was called Nature Inside. It's based on Bill Plotkin's theory that explores the mind based on a map that you can find in nature. And he also adopts a lot of Jungian concepts. And what I realized back then was that it's probably the case that the part of ourselves that we express in our day-to-day lives is like a small part of everything that we are. And this part that we are is everything that we could possibly be. All of the humans can be endless things, endless possibilities, but somehow our consciousness can only deal and compute a small part of that wholeness. So it's like a shimmering light in this dark forest. And everything else is also in that dark forest, but it will be very scary for us to explore it. That's how I see the shadow.
That's such a great metaphor, actually. Oh, I don't think I've heard that better expressed, actually.
Yeah, it really resonates. And I think it's something maybe we should keep in mind to kind of know that everything is possible. And just be gentle with yourself, because some parts are just too dark for you to grasp.
Yeah. And you might make a little bit of progress going into the dark. You might bring the light to shine on a larger area, or you might move the light from one area to the other and then make the old one kind of scary as well. So
yeah, I find it's a really fascinating topic.
I agree.
Okay. So thank you very much. It was really, really nice talking to you, and I feel a great deal of connection.
Yes, me too.
And hopefully we will get to discuss about this further and make a few more videos. I would love
Yes,
to do
I
that
would
in
love
the
to do that as
future.
well.
Okay. Guys, I will leave the links to Michelle's Instagram and YouTube channel in the description below. So feel free to check her content out. She's one of my favorite YouTubers.
Oh, thank you.
So please feel free to do that. And thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for inviting me. And I've always been hoping that we would work together actually since I first started seeing your Instagram. So I'm glad that it's finally coming to fruition.
Thank you very much.